I hope you heard that, because those were two combustion events. This thing, which is entirely made out of plastic, has achieved two little combustion farts, which means that it has achieved its goal. So what is this? This is something that I call the rotary, it's the traveling combustion chamber elliptical rotary engine. Does it have an acronym? No, it doesn't have an acronym. I came up with this design after my previous design, which is this, the rotary vane engine, proved to be a complete failure. Its goal was also to achieve at least one combustion event, just one pop, a sign of life of an engine, but this thing completely failed at it. And after studying it for a bit, I realized why it failed. It failed because getting this thing to seal on a DIY level is not going to happen. It's not going to happen because a rotary vane engine has vanes and they move up and down. So you have to seal the side of the vane, you have to seal the tip of the vane, and then you have to seal the rotor within which the vane is moving. So you have too many things to seal, and getting that is very hard. Doing that is very hard. So then I thought, okay, what's the simplest possible way to have a rotary engine and achieve sealing in it? What's the simplest way of achieving sealing? And what I came up with is this. Let me just get over there. So our housing is an ellipse, as you can see. And this is our traveling combustion chamber. Let's start from this position. As you can see, when we move from this position to this position, the volume increases. Small volume, big volume. We're creating vacuum. Here's our intake port. As we create vacuum, we pull in the air and fuel through this hole. Moving from this position to this position, we are now, as you can see, decreasing the volume, which means that we are compressing the air and fuel mixture. And then at the peak of the compression, here's our spark plug. We ignite that compressed mixture. It pushes on the rotor and we have expansion. Again, the volume is becoming larger. Expansion. And then torque is generated and we push. The volume is now becoming smaller. We push the burnt air and fuel, the exhaust gases, out the exhaust port. Now, this particular design has a lot of overlap between the exhaust and the intake port, so it's a race car engine. I'm kidding. So now we have the exhaust is out. We again have intake coming in, and it repeats itself. Now, the magic of an engine like this is that, as you can see, it is beautifully compact. This is just a miniature little pancake. But the fact that we have two of these and a rotor between them, and it runs like this, means that when one is here, we fire here, rotate 180 degrees, fire again. 180, combustion, 180, combustion, 180, combustion. So this miniature little pancake fires as often as a four-stroke, four-cylinder reciprocating piston engine. But the beauty of it is that the only thing you have to seal is this, the tip of the traveling of this, I don't know what you want to call this, the traveling combustion chamber. We just have to seal the tip and one line on the side, on both sides. And that's essentially what I made. That's what I made before it all fell apart. This is our rubber seal. This is way too thick, but it is the only thing I had at hand. And so this is the seal. And the seal is not subject to any kind of complicated motion like the rotor in an epitrochoidal classical wankel engine. Here, it just goes round and round the ellipse. The only challenge we face is that when combustion occurs here, it is going to try to push this down and it's going to try to unseal the chamber. However, if you get your clearances right and if your rotor is right up against this when combustion happens, the presence of the rotor will prevent the chamber from being unsealed. Hopefully. I did that in my case using springs and roller bearings to allow this to take up the distance between the rotor and the traveling chamber here, and then have it compress the springs and the bearings and have this as tight as possible here. That's a very rudimentary, very primitive approach, but it achieved the two little combustion farts. This still does have the drawback of the rotary, which is relatively large areas of the combustion chamber, so large surface areas when combustion occurs, which means that we have potentially a lot of heat loss, which is poor efficiency, maybe. But the beauty is that here you don't have to have this surface area. You can play around with this design and this design to minimize the surface area because we do not have the same kind of anatomy as a wankel. The anatomy is much simpler. We do not have to seal the rotor at all, and we still have pure rotary motion. So extreme power density, easy sealing, pure rotary motion, and maybe questionable efficiency, maybe not, who knows, but it is a very interesting design, and I really like it, and I really like the fact that this thing led me to a better design, so it's not a complete failure. Now, if you want to see this engine as a reality, something on the market that you can buy, I'd like to invite you to head down to the description where you're going to find the links to my crowdfunding page and my patents that I made. Yeah, we won't be doing that. We're not doing any of that. Links to all the 3D models that I've made so far are in the description, and they are freely available to you or to anyone who's interested in messing about with them. There's no patents because I'm pretty sure, I'm 99.99% sure that somebody already made this and that I'm not the first person to come up with it, because it's honestly kind of obvious. You have an ellipse and the changing, volume within the ellipse, it's kind of obvious. I'm pretty sure somebody came up with this before, and there's probably some flaw in it or something, and people don't want to pursue it further for whatever reason. I don't care. What I want to do is achieve, my first goal was 1 combustion event. The next goal is 5 seconds of sustained combustion. That's the next goal. And then after that, hopefully, something that runs and can power a simple small vehicle, let's say a go-kart, 1-person go-kart. And then beyond that, who cares? But the goal here is not to prove anything. The goal here is not to be smart. The goal, there's no agenda. There's nothing. I don't hope to get rich from this. That's why I'm not patenting anything or even trying to patent, because maybe there's something I could patent here. Who knows? The goal here is to have fun. The goal here is to try and get this thing to run for the sake of the love of mechanical engineering and engines and combustion, and to learn along the way to explore this, for me, completely unexplored side quest route in the giant endless world of physics and engines and engineering. That's it. I just want to, I don't know why. Honestly, I don't know why. I just want to see something like this or similar, a wacky, different engine. I want to see it run. That's it. That's all. I dream about it for some reason, and it's weird, and I don't know why, but the first time I started messing about with this, I felt this is going to happen, and it happened, and whatever, let's ride the wave. Who cares? And if you want, if anybody's interested, we could do this sort of as a community, because I'm not a very good engineer. I'm a self-taught, intuitive engineer. The best tool in my toolbox is trial and error. Yeah, and I don't know, a mess. I make messes, and I'm unorganized, and and a million heads are better than one. So if you have ideas, suggestions, opinions, something that we can do to modify this, you can send them. There's an email in the channel about section. When you go to the channel, there's an about section. There's an email there. You have to unhide it to see it. You can send whatever you want to send there regarding this. And I'm going to try to make it. I'm going to experiment, and I can make now. The beauty is that now I can make an almost endless amount of prototypes, and I can make them quickly, and I can experiment, and I can do my trial and error. And that's because I have this, which you have seen in the video. This, there it is, the Bambu Lab H2D, which is an absolutely amazing 3D printer that can do mind-blowing things. Now, this video is sponsored by Bambu Lab, but they have just given me the printer, and the only condition was to make a video. That's it. I was not told what to say. I'm not obliged to say anything specific. I can say whatever I want to say. And here's what I want to say. It is incredible, like genuinely, honestly, my most honest possible opinion. This thing is mind-blowing. I wanted to get into 3D printing for a while now, but I have been always discouraged by previous experience and some of my friends. Previous experience, I used to have a CNC machine, big CNC machine, paid a lot of money for it. And I did make parts from it, with it out of aluminum, sometimes even other metals. I made sensor brackets for the 4A GE engine. I sold these all around the world. It was kind of fun for some time, but I eventually abandoned and I sold the CNC machine because it was pain. Working with it was pain. I was always troubleshooting something. I was working with Mac 3, ancient stuff, G code. I was having always problems zeroing the machine, getting the right, final dimensions, getting the right feed speed, all of that, dialing it in. After some time, I got tired of it. Once I was almost murdered by it because I got the wrong speed, and there was a part of a drill bit, the cutting end of the machine just flew past my head. Anyway, I also have friends who've been into 3D printing for almost a decade now, and they're also having sort of the same experience as I had with the CNC machine. Always troubleshooting something, always this and that, and more working on the machine than the machine working on producing stuff. And so when I saw that, I was like, I don't want to do this again, not another whatever. But this thing, the Bambu Lab thing, is nothing like it. I got this thing in a box, which was probably the most complicated packaged thing I've received in my life. Took forever to unpack it, but unpacking it took longer than starting to print with it. There was nothing. The only thing I did was to do the first calibration, which is you just press on a button on the software and it calibrates everything by itself. You have to input nothing, no values, nothing. It auto levels the bed, the printing bed by itself before every print. You have to calibrate nothing. It does it by itself. It has AI in it, okay? It has AI in it which detects if there's an issue with the printing, if something went wrong, and then it stops the print to prevent, damage or whatever. So you don't have to babysit it. If you do want to babysit it, you can do that as well, because this thing also has a camera, and in the software, you can be in your living room. This thing can be printing somewhere in the other room, in the other, in another city if you want, and you can monitor it in the software on your laptop to see what it's doing. You can do the same thing with your phone. You can monitor the printing, how's it going. You can start a print, you can pause it, you can stop a print, I don't know, it's absolute insanity, and there's more. This really fascinated me. You get a spool of filament, and you put it in the AMS. The AMS is the thing on top which keeps the filament dry. You put it in it, and it automatically detects what kind of filament it is, and then it syncs with the software, so it knows what kind of filament you have in there, what kind of nozzle you're using, and then when you choose a particular filament for printing, it automatically sets the right bed temperature, the right chamber temperature, and everything else. It is absolutely zero thinking. Just it's like a paper printer. You just go print. Also, it reminded me of something. Remember when the very first iPhone came out ages ago, and then it made everything else look kind of silly? Well, that's what this thing, I think, is for 3D printers. It makes the usual troubleshooting, zeroing experience, whatever, it just makes it look silly. This is the most polished user experience I have ever experienced with a machine this complex in my life. This thing is more reliable and more foolproof and better than my smartphone. This makes more problems than my 3D printer, and this doesn't produce stuff. It can't make anything, and this can make whatever you want, whenever you want, and as many times as you want. Drawbacks of the Bambu Lab printer. There's just one. I just have one drawback, something that anyone who gets this has to be aware of. It's heavy and it's extremely fast. Okay, it prints obscenely quickly. This thing was like 50 minutes, and I had like 60% infill to make it strong. When it said 50 minutes, I thought people print stuff for like 24 hours. One of the reasons why it's extremely fast is because the thing inside it, the printing head, it moves extremely fast. And physics says when you have some kind of mass that accelerates very fast, there's going to be forces involved. This thing has on it from the factory anti-vibration feet, but it still moves a fair bit, and it's big and it's heavy. So I bought a thing in IKEA, which I assembled to put it on it. And this thing is strong. I put all my weight on it. I'm more than 80 kilograms. I could sit on it, do whatever with it, and the table was good, the little tabletop thing. But when I put the printer on it, it genuinely didn't feel safe to me. It just moved all around. And then I tried bolting this table to my table where my monitor is and everything, so to give it more structure, and then bolted it to the wall, but then it just shook everything. So I put the printer back down on the floor, and it works great on the floor. What I'm trying to say is, if you get this, either put it on the floor, which is totally fine, you just have to bend down to get your models out. But if you don't want it to be on the floor, just put it on. You need a very massive table for it. That's the only drawback. Now, the cool thing, what I'm saying is that this will power future projects is that Bambu Lab has filaments which are, number one, extremely strong, number two, have very high temperature resistance, stuff with carbon fibers in it, glass fibers, all of that. And that's what I'm gonna be doing next. I will further improve this design. I'll try to make it that a little bit better. I'm gonna get proper sealing material. This is what I managed to find. But this is not proper sealing material, this rubber that I use. This is basically surface protection rubber. This is something that you put on your table, and then when you work on it, so you don't damage your table. That's it. This is not meant for sealing. I'm gonna get proper sealing, maybe even custom-made seals, something with silicone, something that can take some heat. We're gonna use the high-end engineering filaments from Bambu Lab, and we're gonna try to make a traveling combustion chamber elliptical rotary engine that can run hopefully for 5 seconds and still be made entirely out of plastics. When it comes to the CAD software, I drew this and I have used Onshape, which has become my go-to CAD software. I do everything in Onshape now. I'm loving it more and more. The more I work in it, the more I love it. It is 100% browser-based, which means zero updates, zero crashes, none of that. I can work on it anywhere on any kind of laptop. I can open stuff on my phone, and that's really convenient for me because number one, I don't have to worry about whether the machine that I'm using at that time, and I have a bunch of stuff, is capable of running my CAD software properly. Everything is saved automatically. It's just a dream to work with it, and it made this project even more enjoyable and even more, streamlined than if I had used something else. So we have achieved step one, which is just one combustion event, just one sign of life. And now, after that, we're going to be going further and further until we get one of these things running properly. Now, one more final note. For the time being, we'll be sticking with glow plugs, RC glow plugs, and this, which is RC fuel, which is basically methanol with 16% nitromethane in it. And it has also lubricating oil in it. This is going to make the initial phase of dialing in the anatomy of the engine simpler. And then later we're going to move, if we get that right, we can think about classical sparks or something else. But for the time being, we're sticking with this until we dial in the perfect anatomy, which I think is a good approach because it makes ignition easier than trying to do a magneto and alcohol, like I did with this thing using parts from a lawnmower. That didn't really work. So I lowered these standards to get it to run, and then we can, once we achieve that goal, once we get the motivation from that goal, when we get it running with this, then we can evolve further into more complicated stuff. Hope that makes sense. So yeah, this was a bit all over the place. I made an absolute mess of everything. I've been here for the last 4 days. I don't know, I'm unorganized, but I go so deep into it, and at the same time I kind of hate it because I start forgetting things and losing things. But at the same time I also love it, and I just want to show you what kind of a mess I've made getting this thing to do. Like, this is the table. There's a whole, everything is an absolute horror. I'm working on tools, but I think this is how it should be. This is what I'm talking about when I say enjoying mechanical engineering and physics and stuff like that. This was really, really fun, and I'm really happy that now I have the base, which can take this further, and I can do all the trial and error I want until I get something that runs beautifully, hopefully. Okay, I'm gonna stop now. Thanks all for watching, and I'll be seeing you soon with more fun and useful stuff on the D4A channel.